Welcome, everybody. I'd just like to congratulate everybody, all 5 nominees, for incredible, outstanding work this year. And I'd also like to compliment whoever edited that piece before of the montage. I thought it was fabulous. Well, I'm very disappointed that Dante and Derek aren't here, because I was looking forward to grilling them and finding out exactly how they make their magic. But looking on the bright side, we have more time to spend with 3 of these amazing directors. So I'm going to start off with you, Lance. First of all, congratulations on your 4th nomination. So regarding the Apple commercial, I'd like to quote Adweek, who I thought did a really good piece. I quote, "Frankie's Holiday is a remarkable piece of work and a study in contrasts, dark and light, sad and happy, lonely and full of love. It's beautifully shot and the details are great, like the framed photo of Mary Shelley in Frankie's home, and the end line, 'Open your heart to everyone,' which will be read far and wide as a plea for acceptance in a political climate where the core of that message is in dispute." I thought it was pretty well said.
Yeah.
So Lance, could you just take us through your process in creating such a beautiful piece, including the casting of Brad Garrett as Frankie?
Yeah, that was a big, I thought, for me, it was the most important piece of the whole puzzle, really, that we were putting together. I mean, there was a lot of questions that arose in terms of how close we wanted the Frankenstein character to be to the Boris Karloff Frankenstein that we all know. Should it be, sort of iconic in that way, or should we reinvent the character? But all those discussions, for me, kind of boiled down more to, we really need an actor that can embody this character of Frankenstein, what you imagine Frankenstein being, but also deliver on that performance at the end.
So was he your first choice?
Yeah, he was. I think we've all, like in doing commercials, one of the challenging things to do with the commercials sometimes is to bring an actor in, not just do a broadcasting where you have your first choice and a backup and then a second backup, and then someone in some room somewhere else decides on who the actor should be. It's a little bizarre in commercials the way that works. Oftentimes the back, you have to even use reverse psychology and put your back, and when you go out to an actor like you would in a movie, it's a different scenario. You're getting everyone collectively to make a decision going in that this person's right for the role. But then you're faced with oftentimes the circumstance where they're not going to come in and read for it. You have to make them an offer, Luckily, Dan Bell, who cast this, has a relationship with Brad. And Brad loved it. I talked to him on the phone about it. And he came in and did read for it and just did this amazing performance in Dan's studio. I just wanted to be with him on my own, but the agency was in the other room. And I went in and they had tears in their eyes, and they were like, "Oh my God, that was incredible." But then it did take a little selling to get that through, I think there was consideration on the part of the brand to not let the actor get out in front of it. I think in advertising, a lot of times, unless someone's going to sign on as a brand spokesperson, keeping a certain anonymity about them is a good thing, I think. But I felt like with the character and the prosthetics and all of that we would be, we were in a good place with that. And I think Brad, too, he's been, not everyone knew who he was right off, He's done some amazing work recently in Fargo, the television series. He was great in that. KK Barrett had worked with him or seen him in Gleason and showed me some clips from that. And I was like, he has a lot of obvious range as an actor. Plus he's 6'10", 6'11". So some of the other actors we were thinking about going out to that expressed interest, we were going to have to, look, you can do it, but it makes it a little more difficult. You have to consider who you're casting around him, and all. Like Boris Karloff was 5'11", right? And everyone thinks he's this huge guy. So it can be done, but it was a luxury not to have to ever even think about that with Brad. Yeah.
Well, I think it was a fantastic choice because, frankly, it was only when I started reading up about it that I got it.
It's an interesting story with Brad too. Like, I don't think he would mind me talking about this, but he grew up out in the valley. I think he went to like El Camino High, but he was his height that he is now by the time he was out of junior high, and he didn't weigh much. He was and the kids all teased him and called him Frankenstein. When he was in junior high in his freshman year in high school. He was always more into the arts. He was never like a real athletic guy. So it wasn't like he was the tall guy that was, the popular guy on the basketball team. He was more of a sensitive sort of artist type. But it was kind of a crazy thing that, because he's wanted to play it.
Yeah.
It's in Thailand.
But now, were those his hands in the opening shots?
Mm-hmm.
Wow! So you really gave them such character with the makeup. And
Yeah.
all that,
That Connor O'Sullivan was the makeup artist from England, and he did an amazing job. Yeah, it was great.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well done, Fredrik. Congratulations on your seventh nomination.
Thank you.
How many?
7.
12.
Should have barely done 7.
So, about your body of work, I've read, this is quote, labels like drama and comedy no longer apply. As you get lost in his empathetic, character-driven films and find yourself moved by an emotional experience that's incredibly human.
Yeah, I wrote that.
You did?
I wish I did.
Well, I think it describes your work very accurately. I know you did say that you viewed the Dive commercial as a pure character piece. Could you expand on that and maybe even reference your Phillips Everyday Hero as well as another incredible character? Because, of course, in this case, you've got 3 commercials. The other guys have only got 2.
I think the Phillips this Phillips spot was tricky to cast because it was a guy that was always going to be covered in this Spider-Man outfit, and you never get to see, apart from right in the beginning of the spot, you get to see his face and a little bit who he is, but you have to find some sort of characterization in his walk and in the way that he moves and etc. So we kept casting, and I kept not finding the guy that could give that little extra, some little physicality that could be unique to this guy. And we tried, stumbling. We tried, different ways of doing this. But then I remember that we had my family and I had a really good friend in Rome. He used to be who is sort of a lightweight criminal in being a illegal tourist guide in Rome, and he basically had broken his hip when he was in his teens as a rugby player, and had broken his pelvis, his whole. So he had this incredible walk, and I kept remembering that during this guided tour in Rome with the kids, I was so fascinated by his walk through all the statues and monuments, and so I realized that has to be the guy eventually, because he's the only guy that has that very specific, charming yet interesting physicality about him, and he's not especially athletic today at all, So we had quite a rough time shooting, because he had to wait and catch his breath after each take, basically.
But he did have that right foot splayed to the right beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, he had. Yeah, exactly. I think that was a special trick. He could bend his leg in a way. I think he could bend it 180 degrees, and that's something we used then in the finished film when we shot that scene.
It was fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about the dive character?
Well, the dive character, it was also, I find it's always a bit of a long process with, finding the right character, and I kind of enjoy the process too, and going back and forth with the agency and really trying to really try to push it to the limit. If there's somebody that we haven't really that we've missed in the process of it was quite hard. This one was quite hard also because he wasn't doing much. He was just walking and just exuding this confidence and this sort of inner love for what he's going to do. So we found this guy. He was actually a bricklayer from Napoli. And he didn't speak a word of English, but he came to us through this. We hired this special force undercover dive specialist that went through all the diving, the whole diving community throughout Europe, and eventually he found Giovanni, and he's this bricklayer who saves every little penny, traveling the world, watching every high dive show around. So he's obsessed with it, and so when we met him and started to talk to him, and he came with a translator, of course. He didn't speak a word of English, which probably made my crap direction probably made total sense for him because he couldn't understand it. So I think the translator basically directed him for me. So
But
that was
him diving? That was
What's
his
that?
dive? There was nothing tricky about that dive? He did it in camera?
No, I really wanted to find somebody who could do it for real. That was the other challenge, and Giovanni decided that he could do this the jump from the highest platform 10 times. And if we gave him a little bit of support with pretty women around the pool. Because that was his little Achilles heel, that he loved women. So as soon as you turned your back to him, he disappeared, and he was in a corner chatting up some woman, of course, very young woman, so I had to drag him back in his pants to do a dive. But he had this special, he just said he had to just hold all his stomach muscles in really hard, and then he could, because it was a flat on the stomach dive. It was crazy, and he could do it 10 times, and I think he complained after 9 takes. Yeah,
that's
fantastic.
Can I ask
Well
you,
done.
how did you like when you were? What did you do for the casting session for him? What did you ask him to do in the room? I'm always curious, because were you in a casting room?
No, I just asked him a bunch of questions, who he was. We never really saw him dive,
or like his responses to people and stuff. The way he was interacting with people, you just got a feel for him and just went with it.
Yeah, I never, actually because he didn't have time to come into the casting session, so we had to cast him. Our undercover guy went to a restaurant where he was going to have dinner, and recorded him, filming him on FaceTime. So I was FaceTiming him when he was having dinner with a 25-year-old woman in this restaurant in Napoli.
So good.
And I just talked to him and got a sense for his personality, because I think what we fall in love with is the personalities of people. And then if the personality is there, you can always get them to do stuff. You can always trick them into doing stuff that you want, right?
Yeah.
So I think his personality was there, and that was it. Yeah.
Good job. Well done.
Thank you.
AG, congratulations. This is your first nomination.
Thanks.
And based on what I saw on the big screen, I'm sure the first of many.
Thank you.
So you have said what you really love is to be given the opportunity to celebrate real people. Please tell us about your experience finding the lead character in the Snail for Smasung.
Basically, when I was sent the idea
we weren't quite sure who the kid was going to be. We knew that we wanted it to take place in an environment that would be unexpected for this to occur. So we ended up in India, and we found the first surf club that was ever established in India, and it was called Mantra Surf Club. So we flew in people from Chiang Mai and from Mangalore and from different places. So we cast, we did audition tapes on maybe like 50 different kids. We got lucky because there was a surf competition happening in the place that we were going to shoot at. So we were able to film all these people, and we finally ended up on the young man who ended up in the film, who was from Chiang Mai, and his name was Ajis. And basically what happened was we just, from the beginning, like we had an idea of what the story was going to be, but the way that I like to work is I like to find the real person and then kind of allow elements of their real life to infect the narrative that we create from that. So after a few days of spending time with him and spending time in the location, we kind of crafted the story out of that, because I think when you're working with people who aren't actors, like, you want to make sure that they're comfortable in the situations and that you're really respectful to the truth about their lives, So
was that the real family that he was involved with?
No, dude, come on. Not that real. Like, shit, I gotta shoot, dog. No, they were real, but it didn't. They were kind of a peripheral element to have some sort of drama in the film. We couldn't fly the entire family, I gotta just, like,
I haven't been
yeah,
called
like that.
dude for quite a long time.
No, but basically, like, that was a big part of it. Basically, obviously, like, they had to be actors, but apart from that, I mean, obviously, they weren't even actors either. But just from spending time with Ajis, we kind of created a story that we felt like, basically, my main goal with anything that I do like this is to make sure that at the finished product, the person who we're highlighting in the film is going to be proud of it, right? Like, for me, that's the most important thing, apart from anything else, apart from selling Samsung phones. Like, I want to make sure that the person that we've chosen to, like, invade their lives, like, when they sit down and they watch it with their family, that they can be proud of the way that they were reflected on the screen, right? So that's where that comes in. I'm being funny or whatever, but that was, like, obviously, like, we brought him out and he kind of sacrificed a lot of time, and he doesn't come from a well-off family or anything, so that was really important for me.
I think you did a beautiful job there. What about all the shots out on the water? Were you out there with him, or you had DPs working for you?
I went out for approximately 30 minutes and vomited around 6 times while I was out there, so I wasn't out there for very long, but we had a cinematographer named... I feel like you guys felt sad for me there for a second. It was like we had a cinematographer named Rob Bruce, who's an incredible, like, underwater cinematographer. So he partnered up with Alvin Kuchler, who's obviously, like, a very, very well-respected cinematographer, and they worked together to create this. So one of the big challenges was that we obviously decided to shoot during monsoon season. So one thing that ended up adding, obviously, an incredible amount of drama to the proceedings, obviously, as it's, like, raining all the time. So it was really inspiring to see this, 12-year-old kid, like, pushing out every single time, like, over and over and over again out there, and kind of giving it his all for a group of 50 people who he didn't know, but who he knew that we were, keeping him safe and protected.
12, that's amazing. Well done. Back to you, Lance. The Kohl's movie night commercial, I mean, frankly, that's a brilliant concept. And I'm sure you all got it, that it's Cuba Gooding Jr.'s speech. It took me a while to get it, but anyway, it must have been such fun to cast and to shoot, and the timing, I thought, was absolutely perfect, with the brother arriving at just the right time.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how you went about that? Did you cut
Well,
the thing
it's funny.
beforehand?
It's like the casting on that one. I think we can all, it's what I was curious with Fredrik, because you're faced oftentimes with sort of an abstract. When you're casting for parts where, like in a film, you're going to have dialogue and speaking parts. You can choose a scene and run that scene. Like, it's hard in commercials sometimes to know exactly who the guy is. It can just be personality, but this one in particular was really fun to cast because it was very specific, and each actor, each person that came in and memorized the speech had their own sort of take on it and their own version of doing it. And that actor Sean is really funny. I've worked with him a few times, and he just nailed it from the first time he came in the room. And then it was fun to like, all right, well, who is his family? Like, who would this guy's wife be? And I was just thinking, like, I liked the, and his parents just randomly happened to be there. And how can you take this speech and actually bring each element into a real life situation? We did a few of them in the campaign, and each one we created a situation for it. Like a young girl gets to sit in the front seat for the first time. She does the Whoopi Goldberg speech, and that was really funny. But yeah, it was a fun idea to sort of workshop and build upon, and the guys at Anomaly, it was a great idea. The hard part with a lot of these things was getting the speeches cleared and knowing exactly which speeches we were going to use. We didn't know that until quite close to when we were going to shoot, and then back timing into a specific time frame. That was challenging. We were able to edit the speeches a little bit, but trying to get them to fit within a 30 or a 60.
Yeah. So that was a 60.
That was a 60. Yeah. They were way better with the 60s. It was super hard idea to execute it in a 30 because it takes you a minute watching it to understand what the hell's going on. So I felt like the 30s weren't really as successful in that way.
And I also noticed that the two different styles. I mean, you're fabulous cinematographer, and I just noticed that the two commercials couldn't be more different. So now, your choice of maybe a little handheld, very natural, simplistic sort of lighting. That was a very conscious approach.
Yeah. I liked the camera work in it was fun because it's one of those handheld kind of shoots where you really choreograph each thing. It's actually pretty meticulously blocked out, but then you cover it handheld. It's people come into the foreground and move away and land in certain places. It's fun to. That was one of the things where we rehearsed it quite a. I mean, it looks pretty rough and tumble and kind of raw, but we rehearsed it a lot of times and then started shooting it just so we could get each piece right and everything. Yeah.
You never should have a DP yourself?
I have operator a lot of times, but the guy used to be my dolly grip operates for me a lot now. But I haven't started. They're so such a pain in the neck DPs, right? You got to discuss lighting and
there's a lot here.
You have to wait a long time, and God,
Careful.
No, I know. No, I miss I would. It's something that that relationship that I had as a DP with a director. It's one of the best relationships in our craft. I feel like your DP, director, production designer. That's the thing. I do miss that sometimes of having that person. You have ideas in your head. You have different decisions you need to make, directions you could go to have that person you trust and can.
Yeah. But did you ever have that DP relationship?
No, I never have. I never have, but I would, it's something I've thought about a lot. I think, especially when you really get into working with actors in dialogue, right? To have to be thinking about all the things that I think about when I'm amazed by guys like Soderbergh and stuff that because the direction of the act, and he's operating the camera. I don't even get it how the hell he can do that. But yeah. It's something I'd like to do. I'd like to, it's work the DP sometime.
I'd like to do what you do.
Moving on. The world of play. That was incredible. And I have a quote from you. It was a bit of a mind bend, posing technical conundrums which had to be solved. So how did you solve them? I know that you made some, what I read about, having watched behind the scenes, I thought it was amazing that you had about 30 masks for the extras, all specially made. You had, every extra had his face on. And many other things.
We spent a fortune on those masks, I can tell that. And the sad thing is that we ended up not using many of them at all. I think in the end it was a lot of face replacements because a plastic face is a plastic face from 200, 300 meters away. You could so easily spot it. Even if they were made so well, you could by the when you saw them lined up, you could not tell the difference in a still that they were not real, but they as soon as they came into the film, it was like so apparent, and you can spot it in a millisecond. You've probably been there as well.
Yeah, with Malkovich, that Malkovich scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
yeah.
it was a disaster. Like
was a
with all the
disaster.
trouble we went to make these masks, and no, they didn't hold up.
So
They
we
have to be out of focus and way in the background.
Yeah, totally. So we actually had to shoot every scene. We realized after, I think straight away we realized that we had to place Jason in every single role that was close to camera and further away. And that is not fun to ask a martial arts temperamented actor who likes to move and likes to fight. So we had to take turns. Sometimes I was too scared to ask him, and David Lawson, my visual effects guy, he helped me to get him into these positions a lot of times, and Becky as well, I guess. No, Becky, you weren't there, right? No. Okay, good. Okay, sorry.
Did you have him for a while to do those?
Yeah,
things?
he was actually it was one of the longest shoot with a celebrity I've had. So I think we had him for 5 days actually. Yeah, 5, and he was such a troop. In the end, I mean, he didn't complain at all. You could just feel like I want to fight, I don't want to stand still, you know. So I think but he really, you know, he has an amazing stamina, of course. You know, he's an amazing artist in what he does. And then when I work, I like to have like one challenge that is hard to accomplish and really try to nail. I get sometimes a little bit obsessed with that thing, but for this job, I really wanted Jason Statham to dance, because I've never seen him dance, and I knew he hated dance. He's never the guy that goes up on a party and starts dancing. So that was my biggest challenge with this job, was to get him into that dance scene in front of the window. And I worked him for 4 weeks, almost every day, because he wanted to know, what's the choreography going to be? What are you thinking there? Oh, Fredrik, I can't fucking do that. That's naff. Jason Statham doesn't dance. So, but I did not give up. So that became our thing between each other. You're not going to talk about that fucking dance again, are you? Let me just explain. There's an amazing choreographer, and blah, 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 you know. So it came right up to the day, up to the shoot actually. And his manager came up to me and said, you know, Fredrik, you have to fucking put down this fucking dance idea of yours. This is not going to work. So we ended up using my choreographer, Juju, who's amazing, doing the dance, and then placed his face on it. Yeah.
You were replacing everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. So he basically, but I needed that face for him to do that move towards the window. I needed his face. So I think he walked something like this, because he was sure I was not going to get his dance move. So he was kind of walking like this. I'm not fucking dancing. It was the funniest thing. That's amazing. Never ended up in the behind the scenes, but it's a very
fun. Yeah. I mean, I was amazed at him riding the bulls in it, which were all. I mean, I saw that on the behind the scenes. It was amazing. All CGI and all kinds.
Krilla, my DP, we had probably. Didn't we, Krilla? We had every single equipment in town for that shoot. It was like, I don't know what it's called, but things that move fast and slow and wide and cranes. yeah, you would have been super impressed. Krilla made like his own version of the Wes Anderson American Express commercial, which was for real in his iPhone, in camera. It was incredible. It's like 1 minute long with all the stuff we had. Anyway, thank you.
Fabulous job.
What happened to the masks?
The masks, who has the masks? Lina, who has the masks? Yeah?
He just wears them around. Jason Statham wearing them around.
He probably has them in his house, on his wife. No, he's a lovely guy. He's like actually really fun.
Yeah, wear that one. Wear that one. Dance for me.
The Best Planet. You described it as a poem celebrating Earth. Well, I think you did an incredible job capturing the diversity of this beautiful planet of ours. And could you describe how you approached this, and whether it was collaborating with the agency, or how did you make those choices for such a broad sort of piece?
Cool. I think like on a kind of bigger like POV of everything. I think for me the one of the most important things for that film, like it obviously had the potential of being very beautiful, you know, because we had the opportunity to shoot in Thailand and in Croatia and in Russia and everything. So we had all the resources to create a film that was going to be visually stunning no matter what, right? So for me, the most important thing from the beginning was to, and one thing that I think about a lot, and I try to allow it to inform my work whenever it's relevant, is the idea of not showing the world in a manner that's like homogenized in a way, like, because I don't believe that everybody sees the world in the same way, right? So for me, what I wanted to do was to create a film that was kind of a tapestry of all these different memories of people all around the world, you know. So that was why we made the decision, and my cinematographer's here, Michael Reagan, who I think did an incredible job. That's why we decided to shoot it on a variety of formats, you know, because I felt like that kind of communicated, like, for example, when you see the bug crawling on the woman's arm, that could be, you know, seen from the point of view of like a young boy, or something like that. So I just wanted to create a film that not only when you showed the people on screen, that displayed the diversity of like our different cultures around the world, but also even in the way that those moments were captured, I wanted that to reflect the content of the scene in some way, you know. So that's kind of where that came from.
Yeah. As a ex-cinematographer myself, I was absolutely intrigued by the way you did that and the range of lenses and everything. The one thing that I found a bit puzzling was how the one tiny little sequence with the kid watching the lightning had an entirely different quality to it. And was that because you just literally shot that for real, like sort of with no light and grainy as hell, or did you choose to make it look like that?
No, that was, so we shot that on high 8, yeah. So that was another thing. I wanted to kind of suggest the idea that maybe this hadn't all taken place over the course of the same day around the world. Like, I wanted it to have some sort of a timeless quality, you know. And I always like the kind of degradation, and from the YouTube rip version of it that was shown, that came across like pretty well, I think, as well. Just a slow build. Yeah.
Do we have time for more? Okay, so if we have time for one more question, then we have time for one more quote. This time it's from you, Fredrik. Fredrik, believes that the strongest spots are always the result of not only a great idea, but also a close collaboration with the agency, the client, and his team. You say, all my best work has been the result of great relationships and great ideas. So that's the question to all three of you in terms of your collaboration with your ADs on any of these projects, and in particular, any moments that stand out. Take it away, Lance.
With the ADs that we're working with in particular.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, fortunately, it's interesting. The work we showed here, and for the last year, fortunately for me, Thomas Smith, who's someone that I kind of started working with, like he was the AD on a lot of Spike's earliest work and did all of Spike's movies that I shot. So we have a really long time collaboration with one another. It's like family almost. And kind of to your question about as a DP director, really the relationship with my production designer and AD is all the more important, because those are really like is you know, Thomas I can rely on a much deeper level than scheduling or organizing talent for the ready on time. I mean, I can. And at times I have to cut through and I have to say, forget all that, screw it. I don't care if we're late. I'm asking you right now, did you feel something when you saw that take? And he'll say answer yes or no, you know. And sometimes I have to break through that because ADs, they're in charge of steering this giant ship, right, and making sure it gets there safely and on time, right? So, but I when I find ADs that I feel like I can trust on that level, it's really it's the most important thing, because it's you know, that you can. That's what really matters most, you know, having people that you can, you know, connect with on that level.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think ADs are yeah, they have to, of course, have to schedule the job, but you have to be able to in a pressed situation, you have to be able to lean to them and ask for their, you know, honest opinion, and really know that that's, you know, where that is coming from, that opinion, and where it's landing, and
it's
I like
funny
to,
sometimes, right?
Yeah,
that getting them to work, because they have to wear two hats, right? So you have to get them to switch their hats sometimes.
Yeah. And Anthony, who's here, he's great at switching his hat a lot, you know. But no, I tend to I love ADs that can also help me a little bit with the humor level. You know, if I hear that my AD is laughing, then and Anthony and Howell as well is amazing at that.
Thomas's classic line with me is, "Okay, we're shooting the commercial again. We're shooting it again." You know, because I'll go back sometimes and I'll be like, you know what? I don't think we freaking have that. We're gonna do this again. And it's just like, it takes him a minute, but then he readjusts and he understands why we're doing it again. But it's funny. He yeah.
For me, I work very, very closely with ADs, and I'm glad that my AD on the Smasung job here in India is here, Bobby. And I think oftentimes my ADs, and especially for that job, like will spend as much time with speaking to the actor as I will, right? So for me, having a person like Bobby on set who I've gotten to know over the past year and a half, who has a kind of supernatural degree of empathy, is incredibly important, because I've also worked with the other side of the table, and for me, it's very important to, above anything, to create an environment where people feel safe, like emotionally and physically, obviously. So it's, you know, that's incredibly important for me, and I think that's Bobby's a huge reason why that performance even exists, is because that young boy felt super safe, and every time we'd cut, he'd go and sit next to Bobby, and Bobby would, you know, keep him warm while it was raining and stuff. So I think it's invaluable. You know?
One more thing with the ADs, I think a great AD also knows that. I think for me at least, that a lot of times I feel like I say too much to an actor, and if I tell Anthony, could you please tell her or him to do this, I know he's going to be super short and effective in giving that direction. So sometimes for me, it's giving that, you know, to translate that the essence of something very briefly, and just that, and then move on. You know.
Yeah.
That's it, guys. Congratulations. Well done. Thank you very much.